Hello, 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 and welcome to the No Faces Comic Chat. I'm your host, Bub of Bub's World, and with me, as always, the one, the only, the thank goodness he could make it today, Metarog.
Hey, Bub and chat, great to be here, man. We missed last week, but it's like something's missing in my life when the chat doesn't go on. So I'm glad we're able to do it today, Bub.
Me too. Glad to have you. DS Comics will be absente today. He is going to see a man about a ravenous beaver. There was a sighting in his neighborhood. There was a beaver run loose in his neighborhood, and they thought the only man to wrangle that beaver was going to be DS Comics. So when duty calls, he answers. So that's where he is tonight. But we hope to have him again next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. What do you say, Roger?
Yeah, he's a true Renaissance man. You know, I mean, he sells comics, works in a restaurant, and traps wild animals. I mean, what more can you ask from somebody than that kind of variety?
Well, you can ask him to be on the show, but he can't make it. Let's see, who do we got in the chat? We got them there. Unruly Simeon is here already. We got Las Cruces 1971 saying, hooray! The Jackson Roy Kirk says, what's that say? The retrade rag. Look at him. The retread rag. What a bum. Jambo Comics is here. Thank you, good sir. If you guys missed, so as Roger alluded to, Roger wasn't able to make it last week. DS wasn't able to make it last week, but I was in full health and not working, so I was available. I mean, I work in general, but not of the evening. And so Jambo said, "Hey, let's do something." So we did something, and we had this bondage showcase. We had the 8th annual bondage cover showcase, right? So just so you guys know, go ahead and go back and check that video out. It's got over 800 views in the last week.
Wow.
And
wow. Congratulations.
Isn't that amazing?
I was there in the chat. Yeah, you guys showed some good stuff.
We did show some good stuff, but here's the catch. It had over 800 views. The average watch duration is 30 seconds. So I think it might have been a little bit of clickbait for the more true bondage community out there.
Yeah,
not necessarily the comic bondage community.
Yeah,
you know,
makes sense.
And the intro runs for like 28 seconds. So that means basically 2 seconds. Once they saw comics, they said, "Oh, what is this?" Not what I asked for. Google has led me astray, and they backed out. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think you were at all at being. The title wasn't at all deceptive. I mean,
I didn't think so.
Just people, no, people just if they don't take the time to read the details, that's not on you. That's on them.
Me neither, but we'll take the views anyway. Thank you to all you who watched the bondage video for a whole 30 seconds. We appreciate you. Next time, maybe you'll get the chance to finish. Metarog's here. From Heroes to Icons here as well. Knights of Old is here. You know what we say about Knights of Old. It's like watching butter melt, baby. Look at that boy go. Oh, yeah. All right. Good to have you, brother. Metarog is still here. Two Brothers Comics is here. He gave me a heads up on a book that I should pull tonight, so then I have to find that book. That's the other problem. So if I go silent for a while, I'm still listening. Steve at I Love Disney and Comics is here as well. James Gallegos is here. And oh my gosh, I don't know. Is that everybody? Roger, take over for me, will you? You know where we're at? Oh, goodness.
Sure, yeah. Let's see. James Gallegos. Did you say Ben Compton? Because Ben Compton is here. So there you go. And my
there he is.
Buddy Mike Night Tiger Comics is in here as well.
Night Tiger's here. Welcome, Night Tiger. I've exhausted
we met up on last, and we had a little trade. I don't know if you saw that video, Bub, but we did a little trade. We met up last week. I think it was Thursday.
Did he drop his version yet, or your version, or is there just one version?
It's just my version. His for whatever reason, his got corrupted or something. But we did a little trade over at Arby's here by the rest stop.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I missed it. I have to catch that. All right. Oh, Slim is here. Oh, Sean's here.
Congratulations,
good to have you, brother.
He just had his 700 to subscriber giveaway. It's well on its way to 800, growing like a weed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to quit watering them.
Agree.
All right. I think that's got everybody. If I miss you, I'll catch you on the replay. So, Roger, do you remember our team name for this evening?
I think I do. The Ragged. Oh gosh, I knew it.
Wrong.
The Ragged Retired Ramblers.
Wait, now see, you make me. It's close enough to where I get confused. It's the the retired Rag Runners. I think that's it.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. Ooh, yeah. Well, I got two out of order. I got 2/3 of it in there.
Yeah, you got enough of it. We got it. So what we're going to be discussing this evening are publishers that are no longer in their original existence. So if they transition to something else, that counts. Just basically, you're not going to see this imprint again, right? That's the idea. So I'm sure Roger has a ton of them. I'm going to start off with two, but then I'll go further into this one later. But I'll start off real quick with 3D Zone. The 3D Zone was a small publisher, and basically all that they did was take out of print Golden Age stuff and then reprint it, so stuff that was out of what do you call them, their license, right? Public domain.
And the public domain.
Public domain material and reprinted it in stunningly terrible 3D. I mean, like it's really bad 3D. But we got this great modern LB Cole cover out of it. So that's a win in my book. One of my favorite LB Cole covers. And then another one is Eclipse Comics. And we'll show some more Eclipse here after a little while. But I wanted to lay my claim to Eclipse. That way I can show more of those than Roger does. That way he'll skip that section in his collection for me. What a nice guy.
Yeah, I only have a few, so I didn't bring those out. Yeah.
All right, good deal. All right, Roger. So that's the idea. These are two. I think I'm trying to remember. Eclipse was probably stopped in the mid '80s or so, but we'll check them out here in a minute. So let's see what Roger's got to show us. Lay it on us, big brother.
Yeah, Eclipse, I believe, went into the early '90s. I remember picking up a few in the early '90s from Eclipse. But,
Eclipse ran about to the early '90s. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there an echo in here? Anyway. Yeah. So let's start with the two I got here. You know me, I love the Obscura. So this is a topic which, when you said it, I was like, yahoo, right? Because I love this stuff, right? Atlas Comics on your right lasted less than a year. They were sort of Goodman, sort of like he used to work with Marvel, had an ownership interest in Marvel, and he wanted to give it to Marvel. That's debatable, right? But when you put out product which is so Marvel-like, even with the little banner up here, you can sort of, you don't have to discern too far into it to know that he was trying to rival Marvel, and it just didn't work. It didn't last not even a year, even though there are many quality titles, great talent. Neil Adams was part of it. A lot of the great writers were there. Wally Wood, as you know, was part of that. But it was just too much at one time, and they didn't have the resources to hold out, right? The onslaught of Marvel against them. On the left, I know that you have this, right?
I do not have
Thunder
that
Agents.
I don't have many of the Thunder
Comics.
Agents run. I need them, but I don't have them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, because it's really beautiful wood work in there, by the way. And this particular, they had two different imprints, right? They had the Adventure series, and then they had like for lack of a better term, like the Teen series, Teen In and Tippy Teen, kind of Archie-ish kind of comics. But their Adventure series was, I thought, excellent comics. Only lasted a few years, I think through 67, I want to say. But Thunder Agents, No Man, and Undersea Agent, and Dynamo had his own title as well. were honestly, I thought, excellent comics. I mean, obviously they didn't last. There was a lot of competition, and they just couldn't put out a product which was sellable at the levels that needed to be. They also did 25-cent thicker comics, square bound, which maybe put off a lot of people because most comics were 12 cents at the time, so you had to pay double. So,
right.
I don't know how many more you want me to do, but
I like that one.
well, here we have this is Super Comics, but they're actually two different series by Irving Waldman, IW reprints. These were unauthorized reprints. In other words, he didn't get permission to reprint these comics. They were from Defunct Comics at the time, but he bought a printing shop that had the plate, so he just printed them out, different title, different cover, and voila, comics. And also, they weren't newsstand, I don't believe. They were distributed through other means. And over here we have, this is a cool little title, Little Al of the FBI. This is a Ziff Davis, which is famous for paperbacks.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, the IW, they went out of business in 1963, I believe. But Ziff Davis lasted until like 56, 57, post-code. They just couldn't hold on. But they have some really good titles and cover art, as you can see here. So again, late lamented, but just one of those things that I just when publishers go down, it's one of those like events which I wanted to know why, right? And when you look into the history of these comics, when the Comics Code came in, even if though they did have horror, they did have a few somewhat marginal titles, but some of these titles like this you would think would survive, but they couldn't hold on without those also selling as well.
Ooh.
You want me to stop there for now?
No. I want to see that Charlton.
Hmm?
Go ahead. I want to see the Charlton. Yeah.
All right. I have a few Charlton. This is, I think, a Tom Sutton cover. Charlton started in, I think, 1944. I think Yellow Jacket #1 was arguably their first comic, and they kind of had interruptions in publishing, but the last published comic was, I believe, 1986. They had like Zoo Funnies and things like that. They were really, really bottom of the barrel comics, But their 60s and 70s output was really good stuff. Top flight artists. Their horror, their war, were very prolific during that era. But even their golden age stuff is pretty interesting. Like they had this comic, which is kind of a lampoony kind of comic, in the same vein as Mad.
A lot of those, right? Because you had the Not Brand Eck, and you had the and that was kind of a running theme for publishers. That's correct. I mean, but Charlton had so many different genres. They just went out and had a lot of romance, had superheroes, had war, had some horror, et cetera. But unfortunately, their quality of print at the time was just very substandard. If you see some of the comics from the 60s and 70s, they have like serrated pages and offset printing, terrible color quality, and sometimes even you can't even read some of the balloons, are so blotchy. So they just couldn't compete with Marvel or DC in the 70s. They just blew them right out of the water. And this is from Fox Features. That was sent to me by our buddy Jambo. Hey.
And an AOK. And I absolutely love this comic. It is the flag cover. When we took that island, it was just such a pivotal battle in the Pacific at the time. Fox Features started in the late 30s and had a lot of different genres, and unfortunately did not make it out of the post-code era, and they went down the drain. But again, a comic publisher with a lot of really deep titles that if you I don't know if you have any, but they're actually pretty good comics. They put a lot of effort into their printing and into their production of comics.
Looks good. All right. Scoot over. Here's some more Eclipse. Had to dig that one out of the to be graded pile with the great Dave Stevens sig on there. And then also, what about PC Comics or Pacific Comics?
Yep, Pacific Comics, sure.
You got Alien Worlds. I just pulled a couple here with some more Stevens there. And PC really, if you had to pick one publisher that carried on the tradition of some of the Golden Age comics, I think PC did a great job of it.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Number 4, Dave Stevens. Just collecting fantastic artists and good writers and putting them together in a book, which is, it's just what you got to do. And then, of course, we had them to thank for the continuation of the Rocketeer story.
That's right.
Glad to have them for that. Some more there.
Very nice.
And
very nice.
And I can't believe we haven't mentioned the other Atlas, as they are technically defunct, although they did transition heavily with staff and such.
Yeah, you could say. Yeah, you could say they, obviously it was timely to Atlas to Marvel. A lot of the same players were involved in that, but technically the imprint died in the 50s. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And one of my favorites, Harvey.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
I love the Harvey books. There's Black Cat, the darling of comics. Isn't she darling?
Definitely.
That guy roped over. That guy's getting a judo chop to the neck. Look at that. This poor guy who could only be like a plumber or shop owner. He's just getting his arm broken there.
Yeah, he's got a nice little vest on. It just didn't work.
Nope. Good stuff. Let's see. Another one of my favorites that also carried on some good tradition there was Innovation. And they were much more mature titles. But there's some great Bruce Jones work there. Also a writer, if you guys don't know. So did art and writing for his stories.
Yeah, that's another publisher that.
Huh?
I was going to say that's another publisher that was there was such a glut in the 90s of independence, and Innovation was one of those that just got pressed out of the market, even though they had some, like you said, some kind of different comics and published at that time.
Yeah, it's really tough to distinguish them all at some point. It becomes noise, And then Quality Comics, one of my favorites. And this is one of my favorite comics in my collection, with Plastic Man getting rubbed. He's a cannon getting rubbed. Look at that. Isn't that just horribly inappropriate?
Yeah, that's a Bub special right there.
How is this not on the all-time list of inappropriate covers? I don't know.
Well, you just got to bring a little more awareness, Bub. That's all.
I'm trying. Look at that guy. He's nervous. Look at him nervous. And he's polishing the old cannon there.
Yeah, you can see the sweat there. You can see the stress there. On what is that? What's his name? Winkles? What?
Yeah, if you say so.
Yeah, Winkles.
Good.
Somebody will know.
All right.
Somebody will know.
Over to you, good sir.
All right. I just showed the other type of Harveys. They had those kids comics that ran. I believe they went out of business in the 90s even. They lasted a long time. Casper, Richie Rich, those titles were big sellers for younger kids throughout the 70s and 80s. I know that for a fact. I used to buy some when I was younger, way back when I rode dinosaurs, etc.
Now, you never successfully rode a dinosaur. They all bucked you off.
Well, all right, at least woolly mammoth. So here's one, Dell to the left, which again started in the mid 30s and lasted until I believe the 80s. So long publication history. Just had hundreds of titles, I do believe. 4-Color is perhaps the longest running title to date. I think they had like 1,400 different issues. Although a lot of them were weekly or bi-weekly, so they weren't 1,400 months. So, but lots of good stuff. They had a lot of licensed titles. Obviously, Disney was part of that. A lot of shows. They even had some of their own in-house comics and characters. But Dell is a long-running and deep comic company. And if you want to collect all their titles, you better have a big place to put them because there's a lot of those. On the right, kind of the opposite.
They also span a lot, though. I mean, they have a big, long span of types of books. You know, a very eclectic line from Dell. I know they get a lot of crap for not being like, you know, the most high end books for collectors, but man, you get a nice run of Dell, and it's quite a trip down the old lane of comics, man. It's beautiful.
True. I mean, you know, the only reason they're not that collected is that their genres are not necessarily the ones that, you know, they didn't have a lot of horror, superhero, adventure titles, things like that. So, you know, they had a lot more licensed titles. So that's why they're perhaps not regarded as high as the Marvels and DCs and things like that. But when you look at it, when you look at the whole body of it for 40, 50 years, they had a lot of good comics in there, a lot of painted covers when people were doing just, you know, very sketchy art on covers. So they should get a little bit more, you know, a little more love than they get, you know, currently, right? And then kind of the opposite of Dell is Skywald. Their comics line only lasted about a year, or less than a year, I do believe. But they did have their horror magazines did last quite a few years. But if we're talking strictly comics, these were I think 1 year or so. They only had about 5 or 6 titles, but the whole company only lasted about 5 years. It was a partnership between Sal Brodsky and Irving Waldman. Thus the Skywald amalgamation there. But again, they just didn't have very interesting characters and not really top flight stories at all. The exception is The Heap. I thought that was pretty good story myself. 2 more, and then I'll kick it back to you. ACG, American Comics Group. This comic company. When I was collecting during the 70s and 80s, you couldn't give these away. They were like in the quarter bin. They were in the quarter bins.
I'm actively bidding on a few of those.
Right. I mean, how times change, right? I mean, it's amazing to me. I remember working at the comic shop and somebody bringing 2 long boxes of ACG comics. I think we paid them $1 for it. You know, it's amazing, and they as far as the mystery, and they did have a couple superheroes, Nemesis, and the magician guy, I forgot what his name was, Magic Man, I think, something like that. But a lot of good, really anthology titles in ACG. They have, of course, Herbie, one of my favorites. I think I put him in here. Here he goes, Herbie Popnecker, one of my favorite characters, just the quirkiest, wackiest guy ever. But if you're a kid, you just love those kind of comics, you know.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. They went out of business in '67, but their legacy is now, you know, obviously now much higher, much more sought after than back then. Just because they weren't that collected, so they're a little rarer to find. King is an interesting company. They only lasted about 10 years, and from the mid-'60s to the mid-'70s, most of their comics were actually characters that originated in comic strips and were either reprinted or had new stories later on. Flash Gordon, Popeye, some lesser-known strips like Quincy and Tom Tyler, things like that. But interesting company. I'm actually trying to collect a few of their titles, just because they're kind of obscure and tough to find, which is like kind of the combination that I like, you know.
They are. But here's one I was going to show for King.
What were you going to show?
This one here, this Jungle Gym.
Jungle
King Comics
Gym,
Jungle
okay.
Gym #5.
Yeah, gotcha.
And one thing is you can't go by the
nice
numbering
one,
on
nice one.
King Comics either. They're all over the place.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
Wally
it's a
Wood
mess.
cover.
Hey Jay, how you doing, buddy? Oh yeah. There's some nice art and stories in there, but it's not a publisher you hear much about because again they sort of take Mandrake, even Prince Valiant, which was a big popular comic strip. They had some of their issues, so but just not very popular. But I like it though. I think it's a cool little set that you and again there's not that many. There's maybe 40 or comics in the whole publishing line.
Yeah.
So. There's another ACG. You want me to keep going? You want to take the next round?
I'll take the next one. Next we have United Feature. Whew, that was a close one.
No wonder you wanted the next one.
Well, you already skunked me out on King Comics. I couldn't have it happen again, man. Roger can show his Fritzy Ritz there, but one of my favorite. I hunted this book for a long time. Tip Topper #1 with Fritzy Ritz right there. You see, just so true. So that's his girlfriend. She's standing there in that amazing blue polka dot bikini, and then here he is paying his money to see the picture box with a bathing beauty inside when he's got one right there. So that's like, when you're looking at one comic and you're not showing the love to the comics you already have. I'm sure we can all relate to that one. Another one is Kamiko. Yeah. Don't see them anymore, of course. And it's just so funny. So is there a tie-in with the gaming industry on that? Was Kamiko a game brand as well?
I don't know. I can't say for sure. It doesn't ring a bell.
I always confuse them with like ColecoVision, because it has a similar font and similar lines. But I always thought they were a game company. But they did a lot of licensed property. So there's some great Dave Stevens, Johnny Quest, and then also. I thought we would maybe mention some magazine enterprises.
ME, yeah.
Yep. And that's of course is also a property there. Tim Holt, famous cowboy of the silver screen, right?
Yeah, so a little before my time.
Yeah, mine too. A little bit before mine, not as far before yours.
Little bit more.
Of course, there's an early Ghost Rider appearance, original Ghost Rider.
That's
and then here's probably my favorite magazine enterprises cover, the Devil Machine with Jet #3.
Oh, the Jet one. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah,
I love that comic.
That's a great
when I got that book, I left it out and just stared at it for weeks. It's only been put away for like a month, and I think I'm going to bring it back out.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't blame you one bit.
Let's see, and then I'll turn it over. I got a few more, but I'll turn it back over. All right, what do you got, brother?
All right. I was going to talk about Kamiko as well.
I already showed those.
Well, I'll let go about the United Comics feature. Unfortunately, another company which went defunct in the mid-50s after the Comics Code, even though again they really didn't have, I would say, actionable comics, that at least not that I can recall, No,
I don't.
But
I can't think of
again. It was an industry-wide purge there. And the Kamiko again, went out of business in the late 80s or early 90s, I do believe. I believe it's 90s. I collected a few other titles. Of course, I sold most of them just because I needed room at some point. But I did keep Next Man because I always did like this little short run. Kind of reminded me of like the cyborg, Terminator kind of thing, even though he wasn't a killer. And, yeah, not bad. Okay, then we have EC over here, which again, it's sort of synonymous with the comics code, the rationale behind the comics code, with all their very not for, they did show some skin and so forth, but it was obviously the violence and the drug use, things like that really got the politicians all in a lather, and it led to the comics code so that they could keep publishing, right? But the line did not survive. They tried to do comics like MD and piracy, things like that, but people wanted the hardcore stuff, and they just couldn't deliver it at that point. So
yeah.
Over here we have Gold Key, which is it's in a similar vein to Dell.
So similar that they had the same titles sometimes.
They crossed over titles. Yeah, that's right. When Dell went under, Gold Key took over some of their titles. Or was it vice versa? I forgot.
And no one noticed.
I always forget what I think they no one noticed. Yeah, they both went under in the 80s. I remember because I was collecting a couple titles, and then they just went defunct in the 80s. But to me, they had some very good titles. Solar being one of them. Of course, Robot Fighter was a favorite of mine as well. And they also had a lot of those little quirky little titles, which I like. But again, painted covers. They didn't have, if you notice, they didn't go under the Comics Code Authority, even though there was nothing objectionable about it. But they just didn't want to get into that. And they never really got in trouble for it, because none of their comics was really objectionable. Really, they didn't show a lot of violence. They didn't show any kind of, obviously nothing sexual, things like that. So, so a cool little company that had some good. I mean, it had a lot of, in the video game world, we call it shovelware, right? At the end of the life, you kind of put out all these titles that really have no depth. So they had a lot of those as well, but the good ones were really good. Here's a John Carter, Warlord of Mars.
Oh, nice.
Again, yeah, that didn't last long, but again, these are titles that I collected. Let's leave that for later. Ajax, that's a company you don't hear too much about.
Unless I'm cleaning the bathtub.
Oh, you clean it with Ajax, boy. You're old school, boy. But this was, again, a company that had a plethora of titles, very eclectic as well. Not as many, of course, as most of the bigger publishers, but they had a lot of titles. But again, even though this one here is after the Comics Code, they did not survive much. I think maybe 57, 58, something like that. They just couldn't compete with, I guess, after the Comics Code came in, and DC and Atlas and probably Archie just took off because they already had they were already set in that vein. These guys that had to reset, a lot of them just couldn't do it. They just couldn't survive it. Okay. All right, go ahead, Bub. I'm gonna get a drink of water.
Oh, that's one of your favorites.
You know it.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, let's see. Uh-oh, he pulled out EC. Comic Mag Musical is showing up now. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, you don't see Fritzy Ritz too much. I've actually got quite a collection of those I've been working on. It's one of my favorite characters from the Golden Age, is the Ernie Bushmiller stuff. I just think it's great. So, of course, I have to show my Fiction House love for Fiction House. So here's Planet Comics number 44. And I just love Fiction House is easily, without a doubt, my favorite Golden Age publisher, or Atomic Age, or whatever you want to call it. Just absolutely love them. And just every single title they put out is perfect. in my opinion. I even like they're much maligned as far as Golden Age horror goes, or pre-code horror. They have a Ghost series. It's called Ghost. I don't have any, but I want all. And that's kind of how it is with all the Fiction House books. Every single one of their lines, I want them. I just think they're great. And I especially like, here's a Jumbo Comics. I especially like how they had this down here for most of their titles, at least for the early run of them. And just really love the trade dress of them and the action poses, and their stable of artists, just fantastic. So Fiction House, my favorite defunct publisher. Star Comics, which had this kind of large, very large size. It's Golden Age, but it's like the far size of Golden Age. It's almost magazine width. Supposed to be Jambo. It's good stuff. So Terrors of the Jungle with this great LB Cole cover. Look at that. Isn't that great? It's got that great store stamp, Andy's Used Magazines. Isn't that fantastic?
Oh, yeah.
So
right across the leg too. You can't miss that one.
Oh yeah. I mean, they really tattooed her, I think, with that.
Yeah. Exactly,
just some great stuff. Actually, this whole line, Terrors of the Jungle, is unbelievably good. Lots of great LB Cole stuff throughout that short run. I think there's only like 10 of them, even though it says number 19. But as you know, that with the second rate postage and all that stuff. And then this one for the two brothers in the house. He told me that we couldn't be friends if I didn't at least have one Mirage book. So here is Raphael number 1 from 1985. And I guess now I have to be honest, I didn't know Mirage was completely shut down. I thought they were still running. But according to Dustin at Two Brothers Comics, he said that they just shut down like a month ago. Had you heard this news, Roger?
No, I have not. I know they shut down about 10 years ago, and then they restarted, but I didn't know that they completely shut down. That's a shame, because I'm assuming that they're licensing the Turtles into somebody else. There's no way that property can go down the tubes.
No, I mean, the history of that has got to maintain. But, they've been licensing out the Turtles for years. That's nothing new. I mean, IDW had a run, and who are they with right now? I think, are they with Image? Or I don't know. I don't know who has them right now. Archie had them for a while. So, I mean, they've been pimping out the Turtles since the beginning.
Yeah.
But, good stuff. Mirage, what can I say? We're sorry to see him go. If that's not fake news, you never know. You never know. Star Pub, yeah. He's liking that. Jambo's liking that. I think that's all I've got for tonight. So I'll let Roger finish us up.
Okay.
Let's see.
Two Brothers is asking about Topz. I do believe Topz as a I think as a company they're no longer called Topz though. They were bought out by somebody else, but I can't swear to that. I do have the Mars Attack series. Yeah, I do have the Mars Attack series, which I thought was pretty cool.
I've got if anybody knows Cadillac Dinosaurs by Topz.
Yeah. Okay, here's a couple of my last 4 here. Yeah, you know me. MF Enterprises, sorry. Myron Fass. They only had 2 titles, Captain Marvel, and it was like an Archie kind of title. What was it called? Oh man, the name escapes me. But yeah, this is like the Captain Marvel in between Fawcett and Marvel Comics Group, and they were either sued or they got a cease and desist, or they were, handed a little cash, and then Marvel took over the name. Only lasted about 6 months, I do believe. Again, this title and one other, which I cannot recall for the life of me. Quirkiest comics you'll ever read, just bizarre stories. The character is pretty odd, and I mean, and there's so many ripoffs here. Mr. Fantastic. There's a Batman ripoff. There is a Well, there's also oh my gosh, Plastic Man. Again, in between Quality and when DC got him.
DC,
just yeah, they just push the envelope when it comes to character, copyright, etc. All right, here is Eastern Color, which is a company that started actually prior to Marvel and DC back in 1933, I want to say, but again did not survive past the 50s, mid 50s. But again had a lot of different titles, but perhaps the Famous Funnies is the most known because of the Frazetta art and Buck Rogers, early Buck Rogers appearances, things like that. Obviously, a company which just couldn't compete. I mean, they just didn't have the intellectual properties to compete with the incredible explosion of the 40s and before the code came out. And of course, Fiction House. I had to show one of those just to show a little love. I totally agree with you. I've never seen a bad Fiction House comic. Covers, interiors, even stories are not that bad, honestly, for the period. Just and so many different genres, science fiction, westerns, jungle. I mean, it's just really good stuff. It's a shame that again they didn't make it out of the 50s, unfortunately. And last one, and that's Hillman. Is that too much glare there? I mean, my phone is not.
Well, the color is dark too, but it's all good.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hillman, probably better known for the Airboy series and the Heap. But they also had a very deep stable of titles, including westerns. And again, they did not make it out of the 50s. And that's like a broken record, I know. But the Comics Code really decimated the comics. There were, I think, at one time close to 100 publishers during the 40s, and after that it was less than half. So you can see that it really just decimated the comics industry as far as the variety of publishers. They had to just they just didn't want to deal with the hassle of the Comics Code. You know, it's just that simple. So, and that, my friend, is all I got. I do have more stuff, but I think that this is a lot of publishers. We just
this could go on forever. And there's been some great recommendations. I have Aircell because pretty sure that's the company that put out Men in Black, and I have the original Men in Black series. Mm-hmm. So Penthouse Comics, which I can't show, but I have a few of those as well. Kitchen Sink put out Yarn Man and Atomic, or not Atomic. What is it? What's the guy's Megaton Man? So I've got a few of those. Yeah, I mean, there's so many we could show and go through, but man, it goes on forever. It really does.
The green. Somebody wants to know about the Green Beret. That was Lightning Comics. Let me get that one. Hold on.
All right.
I'm assuming that they want this one here. Hold on.
Who wouldn't want it? And
I'll show the two titles that they had. Here we go. Since I want to. There we go. Super Green Beret and Fat Man the Human Flying Saucer. Lightning Comics, the only two titles they did, 2 issues and 3 issues. The whole publishing line was 5 issues. That's it.
Wow.
There you go. And I have the whole line. Again, the quirky kind of Silver Age stuff, really, really not good comics, but they have a charm that is ineffable, That's all I can say.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people here. Blackthorn, that's a good one. DS was a
Blackthorn. I'll show real quick just so that you guys can leave poor Roger alone harassing him. Here's a Blackthorn. They picked up some Planet Comics run as well, so good stuff there with the great William Stout cover there. But yeah, excellent. That's another good publisher too. So tons. I mean, it's just the list goes forever, doesn't it, Roger?
Yeah, it goes on forever. Yeah. Here's a couple. DS DS Distributor, that was I think mostly Golden Age. They only had a few titles that I recall. MS, same thing. Man, just yeah, it can go on. Fantagraphics, I believe, is still around. I mean, I think they stopped publishing for a while and then they started back up. Yeah, but they've been around since the 80s.
Look at all these, man. You guys are awesome. What a bunch of all-stars. Thank you so much for everybody joining in and playing with us tonight. There really are just a ton of publishers. This could have a part 2 through 12.
Yep.
It's just whenever I can't think of another topic, I'll just bring this one back.
Yep. Malibu's a good one that I'm assuming that's Dustin that brought up. I mean, that was in the 90s, boy, they were hot. And then they merged with Marvel and then Kaputski, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe they didn't merge, but maybe they had some kind of agreement. I'm not clear about that. But they did have those
Angela, right? Angela broke that up, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Capital, that's another good one. Yeah. Capital had some good stuff in the 80s. Yep. Yeah, we can keep going forever, but you know.
And someday they may say Marvel and DC. Who knows? Probably not.
Yeah.
We're still doing this show in 150 years. It could be.
Yep. If we show one different distributor, publisher each time we do a show, it'll probably be about 10 years before we get through all of them. And some of them only had one issue. I have 10 comics of publishers that only did one issue because they're promos, things like that. So,
my goodness, so much.
Yeah, Marvel would have killed them. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
we'll do it again. We'll do it again. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. Kind of a short issue tonight because we're just them. There are two of us. But we should be back next week with another great episode. If you liked this, you'll love the next episode. And if you didn't like this, the next episode is going to be a complete rebranding. You'll never see it coming. So make sure you check that one out. What do you think, Roger?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, man. Sears Roebuck. Oh my God. Yep, they did. They did publish some comics. So did JCPenney. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. He's right. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to cash it in, and we will check you out, all you fine folks, next time on No Face Comic Chat. Kind of a short one tonight, but short and sweet. That's what I say. Roger, what do you got coming up on your dim there fine Chanel?
Well, tomorrow I'm actually going to be on From Heroes to Icons, who was in the chat previously. We're going to finish up our Byrne trilogy at 7 o'clock on his channel. We're going to go through Byrne's work in the 90s and into the 21st century. And on Thursday, we got Roundup. I'm going to kind of rebrand that in November just because I think it's just getting a little too stale. And then we have the Graders Notes on my channel on Thursday, where if I can put in a plug here, we are going to be giving the Graders Notes treatment to Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans with art by Walt Simonson, and I believe it's written by Chris Claremont.
I actually like that one, so I hope it gets a favorable review.
I think it will. I think it's much better comic than average. Yes. So my channel 8 o'clock on Thursday, and you will get all the details from the kooky quartet of the Graders Notes crew.
Ooh, I like that. Hey, even taking notes. All right, good stuff. Is that all you got coming up? That's a lot already.
Well, yeah, that's 3 things. I mean, what you know?
No, that's a lot.
I do have work, and I do have a wife, and I have a house that I'm
blow
still
off the work and treat the wife to a spa day and get back to the business of comics. That's what's important.
Well, she is going on Wednesday for kind of a spa day, which I am going to be working on the comic room, come to think of it. So,
man, I'm excited for that. You've got quite a nice little nook there. I'm excited to see how it comes together.
Yeah, so am I. I got a lot of work to do, but it's my little sanctuary here that I really do. I'm very blessed to have. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking that just the other day. I was in my house and And we have a modest, I would say a modest house. It's not a big mansion on a hill or anything, but we have really worked on it since we moved in about 5 years ago. We have really, really worked on it to make it our own and to make it nice little spaces everywhere we go is a little mini oasis. And to be able to have this comic room, I've never had a room that was mine really. Until now. I mean, even when I was growing up, I had to share with my brother. So it was like I never had a space that's all mine. And the only thing that's not mine is the treadmill that's behind me in every video, which I don't mind at all because, it's important because the greatest piece in my collection is of course my wife. So I got to make sure she's maintained well. So I got no problem with that. But it's so nice to have just a little room, a little nook for your hobbies and stuff. It's just awesome. I feel very blessed for that.
It is, and you kind of undercut it, but your room is no slouch. There's some good stuff all around there. So I'm glad you're happy.
Yeah, I like it. It's ever changing. So I'm gonna need to do some more changes for some more getting closer to Halloween. So a couple more horror books will come out and make say boo. So as for my channel, don't have a whole lot going on. I got a new batch of comics come in, so I'll be going through those with a little comic haul probably Wednesday, and then hopefully by Friday I may have another Zavvi box and my wife and I will do an unboxing of that. If not, then it should be time for another vinyl record, maybe not a haul, but definitely a recording. I may do another vinyl recording, so that'd be good.
Nice.
Always fun to have that on Friday or the weekend. And this weekend is going to be a convention that I'm hoping to get to. Should be able to get to. I'm trying to wrangle old Jambo Comics to get in there on it, so make it a nice big family affair over at the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So that should be nice. So we'll see how that goes. A little nice little comic convention. Very small, but only $5 to get in.
It was great to hang out with you. Like that.
Oh yeah, we have a big time. So no more bondage shows. Yeah, we don't know. We might title every episode from now on Bondage Extravaganza and see how many hits we get.
You may have hit on algorithm gold there. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, who knew? 800 plus views, and nobody stayed past the opening credits. It's great.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, that's all we got going on today. Roger, what do you want to tell the fine folks at home?
I want to tell everybody to be back next week for another No Faces chat, and be kind to each other, be blessed, and be back.
Yes. And I want to tell everyone to remember to read a comic, and please don't apologize for the glare. Why? Because the glare shows you care. Thanks. Good night.
Ooh.